It's a Josh. Oh, you go. You do it. You do it. Are you doing it or am I going to do it?
I was going to. You talked about me doing it. I was going to do it.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, no. Well, we're kind of on the fence, but there's sort of that moment of hesitance. So I didn't know if you're going to do it. So go ahead, do it. That's cool. You're not like mad at me, are you? Or...
Well, I'm not mad. I just the pressure's on now, man.
Okay. It's all good.
Getting sweaty palms here.
All right.
Oh God. It's the Josh and Josh podcast with your hosts, Josh.
And Josh.
And we're talking wrestling.
We're talking a lot of wrestling. This is a huge wrestling weekend. We've got, of course, the AEW show tonight, Logan Square Auditorium, Final Stand. You're gonna have Trevor Lee. You're gonna have ACH doing their thing. Man, I saw them a couple months back when they're at Logan Square Auditorium. Hour-long draw Broadway match. It was obviously you walk away kind of wanting a winner, but they're building up for something bigger. So we're gonna see that match tonight. They're heading off to WWE. I know ACH is heading to the Performance Center, I believe. Trevor Lee, I think, is on his way too. Is what I've heard at some point too. But they're gonna put on a clinic. They're gonna blow the roof off. Of course, you got NXT Takeover, which hey, no spoilers. I'm not going to see that until well after the AEW show tonight. But yeah, looking forward to NXT TakeOver. And of course, you got Royal Rumble tomorrow. Which, we're going to have a next show here on February 9th or so. But let's get right down to it. Obviously, we'll talk about the 800-pound elephant in the room. Well, we got some great shows that are happening tonight. The Royal Rumble. This is the one that sets the road to
Rumble. Yes.
WrestleMania. Let's just we'll just kind of quickly talk sort of the more main event predictions and see where you're going with that. So. Men's Royal Rumble. Where do you see going? Who do you see taking it?
Ooh, you know what? This could be really good. This could be a really good. You ever watch like the Rumble and there were a couple years past where it's so predictable. Like you end up with like Big Show, Kane, some other schlub, and then like the one guy they're trying to push. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to name names of any maybe situation this may have happened with recently in a Royal Rumble, but I think this year they could really do something here.
And so, when that being said, what's your prediction? Who do you think's going to win?
You're gonna have to get back to me. I'm still like in my head. What's
okay? All right. Well, here's where I'm going with this, and I think this individual is deserving. I think that they have been a workhorse for WWE. They've held multiple titles, and I think at WrestleMania, we should see the new Daniel Bryan. So I predict new Daniel Bryan to win tonight over AJ Styles, which that'll be a killer match, by the way. Yeah. I predict it's going to be new Daniel Bryan versus the New Day Kofi Kingston.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you think they'll break them out?
I think there's a lot that they can do. This whole thing with Daniel Bryan saying, I hate consumerism, I hate all the fans. Who doesn't like New Day? This is like these are antitheses. These are polar opposites. I think it speaks for itself. And Kofi Kingston, like I said, he has worked his way up. He's done everything in the WWE. He's always been there. He's always made every call. He's done the single stuff. He's been rocking with New Day. I think this is the time. I think new Daniel Bryan versus New Day. I know there's some kind of marketing there, fun with the title and whatnot, but I think Kofi Kingston's deserving of it. And every year he's got to figure out a way to keep himself in the Rumble. I think this year he keeps himself in the Rumble by actually winning it.
That would be amazing. I love Kofi Kingston. I gotta be honest with you, I don't see it happening, but that'd be great. If that doesn't happen, I'm looking to see how he manages to prolong his, that seems to be his trademark now. He prolongs his stay at the Rumble a little bit. I think last year was pancakes, right? That'll be interesting to see.
Who knows? We might see a Hornswoggle roll from under the ring and just catch Kofi. I mean, we never know with Kofi Kingston. But again, I'm going to go with that. But so we'll see. I mean, that's the thing. I've always been a huge Kofi Kingston fan, even from the old WWE CW days. I'm glad that he's evolved into this character of New Day. I think it's a very positive character. It's something that puts him over. The fans love it. He loves doing it. I guess I shouldn't speak on behalf of Kofi Kingston. It looks like he's having a lot of fun doing what they're doing. But we'll see. We'll see. But Josh, that being said, what is your prediction for the Royal Rumble this year?
I think the winner of the Men's Royal Rumble is going to be none other than Drew McIntyre.
Okay.
I think it is his time now to send a message and all that good stuff. And he's got that no nonsense, I'm coming for you, I don't give a damn about any of that kind of attitude that it's kind of refreshing now. Someone so no nonsense and no straightforward in the way that he does it is what we can need it, and that'd be awesome, right? I mean,
because I think that, and this is kind of leading into my other sort of predictions for the Royal Rumble. What I think will happen tonight is I think Brock Lesnar will go over Finn Balor. But what I hope to see, because again, in my world, I'm thinking New Day, Kofi Kingston specifically is going to win the Royal Rumble. I think that Raw has a tournament to determine who's going to face Brock Lesnar. Finn Balor wins that one, and then Paul Heyman goats him into coming out as Demon King. Says, listen, you can't beat him as Finn Balor. Let's try this Demon King. And you have the undefeated Demon King versus the Beast, Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. That's what I want to see is Kofi Kingston. Honestly, I could also see Seth Rollins winning it, and then we have Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I see that happening as well too. But I guess I'm sort of, my prediction is like what I kind of want. I'd rather see honestly Demon King versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I just think it's a better storyline. I think that Finn Balor, he's been to the mountaintop before. I think he's deserving. I think that you need to push some guys up, especially in the men's division, especially on Raw as well too. Are you picturing like Drew McIntyre then versus Brock Lesnar, or would it be like Drew McIntyre versus like AJ Styles going like if AJ Styles went over Daniel Bryan?
See, that's the thing. I feel like it'd be one of those situations where he won the Rumble, but he doesn't necessarily get that match at WrestleMania. You know, it's one of those situations is what I would see happening, because I think Drew needs that. Yeah, I don't know. I see them doing that, but then there's something that happens later where maybe he's not the main event, but he's next to it, or it's a triple threat or something like that. I just don't see him being fully that guy just yet. But I really do see them pushing him, because I think at this time, the time is right. The time is now for Drew McIntyre to come in there and make some big noise, and I see no better way than doing that, giving him the Rumble win.
You think?
And then at least pushing him for a little while to be that guy, even if things maybe change up along the way. Because you know how WWE will just swerve and change and twist and turn. It's a friggin' pretzel. So we'll see. And and that's the interesting thing about these predictions is, do you go with what you want and what your gut says, or did you go with what WWE is going to do? I try to do both.
Present both, right?
But at the end of the day, I got to tell you, it's just at the end of the day, I'm not going to pick something I don't want.
Sure.
So like maybe this isn't the most likely thing to happen, but I think a lot of people.
I'm choosing Kofi Kingston. Like that's. But I also threw out there like I think it's going to be Seth Rollins. So I'm kind of covering my butt either way. I'm like, well, now I can be like, well, no, I was right. I said Seth Rollins. You heard it on the podcast. I said Seth Rollins. I was right in the Oracle of Wrestling.
Because if we come back here, and we were proven wrong or something, the internet's gonna rain down the fury upon us.
Well, I hope. Well, maybe
we'll get a comment. Come on, guys, leave a comment. Honestly, leave us negative comments, because that at least gives us something to work with.
Yeah, I think the other thing to think about now, just in terms of predictions, we're looking at tonight Ronda Rousey, Sasha Banks. I think Ronda Rousey's going to go over.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the women's Royal Rumble event, I actually initially pictured Ronda Rousey winning it, and then them actually unifying the women's title at WrestleMania. And the reason why I say that, it's for a couple reasons. It's only for Raw or SmackDown. It's only one set of tag titles.
That's what it seems like.
Right, so it would seem silly to me if only SmackDown only had, as far as tag titles.
Right. And
then you're like, okay, well, let's say SmackDown Team 1, the Elimination Chamber, they get the tag titles. Raw's just going to turn around and be like, you know what, we're going to create our own tag titles. And then it sort of takes away from the integrity of having that championship.
It's not the same, What do you think of those belts?
I think they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
I think they're gorgeous.
Nice departure.
Yeah. No, I think they're absolutely gorgeous. No, so another one of the things, this is what I've been kind of like, I think WWE should do, is that when they have their titles, so I think if they're going to have the two separate shows, Raw and SmackDown, I think a better way for it to work is if you have the championship titles act as like free agencies.
Yeah.
They're like golden tickets. Once you hold a title, you can go in between Raw and SmackDown. If you lose to a SmackDown superstar, for example, you're then part of the roster on SmackDown. What that does is it kind of refreshes as far as both brands. I love the drafts. The drafts are great, but honestly, after a couple weeks, they kind of get stale again. A lot of that's, there's some creative opportunities there. But I feel that if you have a champion, and even if you have a champion that's, for a while, you can have a champion for 6 months going back and forth. It actually holds more integrity for the title. You can now have like the U.S. and Intercontinental title on both shows. Maybe someone is getting injured or someone needs to take a break and like only be on SmackDown or Raw. They can drop the title, and then there's someone else you want to put over. Bam, you can just sort of move it around. But I always sort of felt like that's how the King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring. By the way, we should definitely do at some point, right?
There you go.
Those earn you free agency throughout the year until you lose it. Then you become part of that brand. But that's where I kind of thought they might be coming with this, because again, the women's title, it's like it's only going to be for one show. But to me, it'd be so silly if, like, say again, Raw won and then SmackDown came out and said we're just going to create our own. I'm like, that just seems kind of weird to only one show would either have a Raw as far as a women's tag title. But then it's like if you won the title, it doesn't mean anything then at that point. If the other show can just create one whenever they want.
Yeah, you don't want to devalue it, but you want to have symmetry or just more opportunities. I mean, I'm up for anything that creates more opportunities for changing things up. Like you were saying, the free agent. Yeah. If you have the belt, that'd be great. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I mean, they tossed out that automatic rematch clause. Why not institute something like this? Anything that gives them the opportunity to mix things up, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, I actually initially kind of thought, Ronda Rousey might win the women's as far as Royal Rumble tonight just to have a unification title. But now there's this news of her contract perhaps expiring in April, but I don't know if that's necessarily... With WWE, how they can bend contracts, they can bend that type of thing. So I believe it's what I most recently heard, that Ronda Rousey's contract is up come April. I don't know if it actually makes sense for her to... I guess it's up, but it's also she, in her defense, she wants to start a family, which is definitely good,
A lot of the talk is that WrestleMania would be her last match, but I could see her winning the Women's Rumble, possibly, going to WrestleMania, and then still sticking around a little longer. I don't know, I feel like it'd be too bad if she only did basically a year run. She pretty much came in April of last year. Ish.
Well, Royal Rumble, she appeared. Royal Rumble was her debut.
Yeah. If you kind of like, why not stick around a little longer? I don't want to say it's a waste. I mean, it hasn't been a waste. I think she's a great competitor. She's good on the mic. She was an asset to WWE, and she was a lot of fun to watch. So it's kind of like, as much as she wants to have a family, I say, family be damned. I want to see a little more Ronda. Sure. I want her to stick around. I feel like we haven't fully explored what we could do. From what I'd heard back in the day, who knows how legitimate it was, but one of the ideas was they wanted to elevate Stephanie McMahon to the status of Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon, that character. Everybody knows Vince McMahon, but I'm sure if you whatever their surveys show, not nearly as many people know Stephanie McMahon on a global scale, a household name situation. So the rumor was that they were going to have some sort of Ronda Rousey versus Stephanie McMahon matches to try and elevate Stephanie's name. Who knows if that ever was real? Who knows if that's ever going to happen in any way, shape, or form? But
it did happen,
sort of. But
the tag match, and then
but I'm talking like Austin versus McMahon level stuff.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Where it kind of goes on a lot longer and they explore it more. That's the impression I got, at least from what I had read. That's what I understood, or at the very least, that's what I would maybe like to see. I think that could be very interesting. Like I don't want to rehash Austin versus McMahon. But Stephanie is a good heel. She could be a good antagonist for the babyface Ronda Rousey that everybody loves. Who wouldn't want to see her get in an armbar again or taken down again? Because it's Stephanie McMahon. But anyway, that's just an example of what I'm getting at, where we haven't fully explored what we could do with Ronda Rousey. Like, 1 year's just not enough.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, the year she's been around, really, I honestly think she's given it, like, you want to call it the old college try. She's really stepped into this role. I think she's deserving to be the women's champion.
Sure.
She's been around. I can't say she's been wrestling full time, like as far as doing all the house shows and whatnot. But I mean, she's been there darn near every Raw. I feel like they base a lot of Raws around her.
Yeah.
Especially when your Universal Champion isn't showing up, and that's I think people get mad about Brock Lesnar not showing up. It's part of his contract. That's part of his contract. That's what they've agreed on.
That doesn't make it suck any less.
It sucks. It sucks, but that's a decision that he and WWE have made, and they understand the fans hate it. But that's where we're at with that. But anyway, back to Ronda. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that starting a family, that's cool and all that. Go do your thing, and it'll be great to see her back, probably like a year or 2 or 3 or so, maybe in a part-time capacity, or even maybe something where she is potentially like a GM role, where they don't have the GM role right now. They've consolidated all the powers to the McMahons, but maybe at some point they have a GM-esque role. That might be nice, where she only has to really maybe work like once a week or something, and then you can still do her family stuff. But no, I'm with you. Like I definitely hope this isn't I don't think this will be the end. But that being said, I sort of picture this fatal 4-way at WrestleMania. Where you've got Charlotte, you got Becky, you got Asuka, and you got Rousey. I just keep going in my head like there's gonna be some type of unification fatal 4-way match. So that's where I'm going to go with. I don't know if I can give you even a prediction. The women's division is so much more vast and expansive than it once was. There's
no doubt about
so much talent. There's always been talent, by the way. It's just that now they're actually spotlighting it. and actually making this an actual thing. So it's excellent. It's the next evolution, and it's great to finally see this. But that's the thing. It's like I can't honestly tell you who the winner will be. This is where I see a co-winner of some sort, where like two fall over the rope at the same time.
So
I can see something like that, right?
That's the thing. It's kind of like pick a name out of a hat, and I'm happy. So let's just go with Ember Moon, just as a complete dark horse out of left field.
Yeah.
Because, if I want to be really logical about it, I feel like it'll be Charlotte.
Sure.
But I'd love to see Ember Moon.
My favorite gimmick is a Battle Royal, which is essentially what the Royal Rumble is. Now, I think because there's the separation of, every 90 seconds, it's a Royal Rumble is a little bit different than a Battle Royal, but at the end of the day, it's the same concept. Once you're in the ring, it's a Battle Royal.
Sure.
And so this has always been my favorite gimmick, mainly because I'm just not good at guessing it. Usually I have a better idea. I'm like, all right, I kind of see this sort of happening with this match, or any wrestling fan, you read the dirt sheets, you hear about the marketing, you kind of understand where they're going to go with these characters and whatnot. And usually with the Royal Rumble, I don't usually have a great idea of who's going to win. There's been a few times like where I knew Rey Mysterio was going to win for like the WrestleMania 22.
Okay.
As far as that whole era, but I think there's some times where I've guessed it. And I'm like, but yeah, generally speaking, especially this year with the women's Royal Rumble match, I honestly can't think of a prediction. I somehow think there's going to be this fatal 4-way unification match with the women's titles.
Could be.
Yeah, we'll see.
That'd be great too. Well, but either way, I think we're going to win.
I've seen at least the past couple WrestleMania seasons that I feel like WWE they're adding more variables so it can go kind of multiple different ways. Yeah. And if you're really trying to guess what WrestleMania is going to be, you always start with Undertaker. And I think that we're going to see Cena Undertaker too. Maybe they put the careers on the line. That would be cool. Cena versus Undertaker, final ride, loser leaves, WWE. Just like it works, it kind of works itself. John Cena can come out and say he's already kind of said, "Hey, I wasn't ready. I want another fight." Shawn Michaels did the same thing, and Undertaker said, "Okay, but you put your career on the line." Undertaker could do the same thing, and this would fit into sort of his role of the Undertaker, like he's fair across the board. And I'll say, "Hey, I'll give you another match at WrestleMania, but this is it. You put your career on the line." And then maybe John Cena fires back, "Why don't you put your career on the line too?" And we determine who is the best of all time. WrestleMania 35, why not? It's a nice round number. You always need something big to happen, right? And they've sort of been hinting at this kind of cusp of The Undertaker not being able to wrestle forever, really since WrestleMania 30. Well, actually, I mean, if you want to go back even further, it was WrestleMania 25 when I think he broke his collarbone, and they were worried about him then. Because when he was doing a dive towards Shawn Michaels out of the ring, and he had messed up his collarbone really bad. But I think it was sort of then they got a little more cautious. He wasn't doing as much TV, but he's been doing kind of his 1, 2, sometimes 3 time a deal, which he's well deserved. By the way, I'm not saying like you only work 3 times a year. Undertaker's earned that. There's people like Undertaker, Triple H. They've earned their right to do that part time stuff. And so yeah, I think that we'll see Undertaker, Cena, and I think it's going to be like career match, and I think it's going to be one of those they'll put their careers on the line.
That is quite possible. I wouldn't put it past him. Yeah, like you said, it is a nice round number. I mean, he's definitely seen better days. As much as we love The Undertaker, he's got to rope it in at some point, and it'll be sad to not see him at WrestleMania and whatnot. But
that's the selfish part of me. Like I never want. I want him to wrestle forever. Like I'm biased. Like the Undertaker's, he is my favorite wrestler of all time. I've always been a fan of him even since the beginning. I remember as a kid watching him come out and being like, "Whoa!" Just like, who is this guy? He's so different than everyone else.
Totally.
And I was always felt tranquilized when he would enter, and I was even kind of with him like, well, thankfully because of his promos, but even during the Attitude Era when he was like the American Badass, wasn't a huge fan of that character development.
No.
I've always been a huge fan of The Undertaker. A selfish part of me is like, no, I want him to wrestle forever. But I also understand that as you get older, and especially considering sports entertainment, pro wrestling, sports, whatever you want to call it, it's physical.
Right.
It's something you can't keep doing. At some point, you do have to.
I look at it this way: like compare this to any other sporting type thing, and we've gotten ourselves decades longer than any football player could ever last, any basketball player. We're really spoiled that way because of the nature of pro wrestling. We were able to get Ric Flair and people. And Shawn Michaels just came back, and Ric Flair was able to wrestle 1 million more matches after he retired for the 8th time. Yeah. And it's great, but it's like at some point you're just like, hey man, we got 30-something great years. Like, You know, and I get what you're saying. I want 30 more years. I agree with you, boss.
Ultimately, ultimately, here's what I would say about it is like, I think he should get to decide. I think the legacy he has created, I think the decades he's put in, I think he should be able to work with Vince at, in the board and whoever else, as far as Triple H and Stephanie and Shane, and make this work and do what he needs to do, and as far as give him the proper goodbye. If we're going to see that, I don't know. I mean, the other thing too is he is in good shape. It's just that, as naturally as you get older, you can't keep doing pro wrestling. It's not possible. Yeah. But I'm sure there's 100 people that would prove me wrong on that. But definitely it's something that as you get older, it's tougher to do. But I don't know if we'll see this. I don't know if we're going to see that this year. But hey,
I don't know if it'll be this year. The only thing that I absolutely demand is that we do get to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Not, it turns out that last match in October, that was it. No, we got to actually get to say goodbye,
Well, if they are going to sunset The Undertaker, it would have to officially be at WrestleMania, of course.
For sure.
And there's nowhere else to do it. And I think then the next year would be his Hall of Fame. He would run the Hall of Fame. And that would be just a great speech itself. I can only imagine Glenn Jacobs would induct him.
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe even Triple H. Triple H, because they're... Well, I guess even though Kane was a few years after, Triple H had been around just about, as long as two. And, and I take that back because Kane was, I completely take that back because Kane was actually as the alias Isaac Yankem DDS.
Oh, that's true.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that we could definitely see Kane, which would make the most sense to have Kane and Duck. Again, Paul Bearer.
Yeah, good call. Good call, though, yeah.
But I would, it's one of those where it's like, if this is going to be the final match, they got to do it right. Undertaker, Cena... It could be WrestleMania, we'll just say. And if they do it 35, the way it would have to kind of work is that Undertaker gives everything and just runs out of life. And you sort of see, like, the Druids come out and carry him off. And Kane comes out. It's almost like a scene like Funeral for a Friend in Superman.
Right.
You have Kane come out. You have maybe other characters that Undertaker used to fight or something, whatever, sort of come out in this type of thing.
Oh yeah,
as they carry him out, it'd have to be something that epic because we're talking it's the Undertaker.
That's the thing, yeah. And you know what my fear is that the WWE wouldn't give us what we want.
Apparently we're the authority.
Now,
So hey, apparently we're the authority.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've been watching the same Raw still. But Well, that being said, then, we'll definitely see. It's always chaotic. It's always fun. WrestleMania. It's always a good season. Tons of great wrestling right now. But in terms of that, I think that we have a topic we're going to talk about today that was just people that should be in the Hall of Fame. People
Hall of Fame discussion.
Hall of Fame discussion. Mm-hmm. So I know people have had this discussion for probably years upon years upon years upon years. WWE came out with restarted their sort of Hall of Fame talks. It was, 93 is when they officially, as we know, the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It was 1993. Of course, Andre the Giant was the first inductee. He was the only inductee that first year.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, there was no one else. And then it was like sort of year after year, they added 6 or 7 at a time, which is probably the way to go. There's a lot of people who've done a lot of great things. And if WWE is trying to make this like an all-inclusive type thing where it's just pro wrestling in general, of course it's going to have a bit of a cusp with WWE in there. Sort of their revisionist way of looking at history.
Oh, sure.
Right, but if they're going to try to make this all-inclusive, everyone's got tons of ideas of who should be into the Hall of Fame. So we'll just kind of get right to it. So, Josh, we sort of, decided, I kind of came up with about 5 people I'd like to see. 5 people that are kind of unconventionally should be in the Hall of Fame, and I can definitely back up why they should be. But what are sort of your top thoughts of who should be in the Hall of Fame?
I've got some thoughts on this. You have to be of two minds on this of who should be and who's going to be and who will. But
well, actually, let me just cut you off right there, Josh. And I'm sorry to cut you off there, but let's talk about the other 800-pound elephant in the room, right? Like, let's just get right to it. Do you think Chris Benoit is ever going to be in the Hall of Fame?
The Benoit question is an interesting one. I'm going to answer this in a roundabout way. Bear with me, folks. See, the way I look at it from WWE superstars or legends, or let's say potential Hall of Famers, people who could be in this pool, right? You can break it down to, friends of the company, which, people that everybody loves and WWE loves. They're in the good graces group, right? Like The Rock, Stone Cold, everybody loves these people. And these people are either future Hall of Famers for sure, or they already are, Then you have the problematic people, who some could say China fits into that group. Some could say Tammy Stitch, Sunny, fits into that group because of some of the weird Skype videos she's been doing.
Although she eventually did make it into the Hall of Fame, though.
She did.
Yeah, right.
She did. So those are like iffy people, you know. Like they're like they're a little problematic. You know, you could say Jim Cornette would be a little problematic because of all the things he's said over the years. You know, stuff like that. And then you have like straight up, or Hulk Hogan would be problematic as well. You know, they're just kind of assholes, or they just cause trouble, you know, or whatever. And then you have people that are just straight up monsters. You know, the completely untouchable. And honestly, I mean, the only people I could really think of fitting into that group would be people like Chris Benoit, and maybe 15 years ago I'd say maybe New Jack. It almost seems like he's rehabilitated a little bit and dealt with his anger issues. Wow. At least that's the public image that's given. So again, we're talking about this from WWE's point of view, is if he's problematic or not. He's still he'd probably end up in the very problematic section. But he never straight up actually, you know, committed murder. And I don't want to go into the incident's details. We all know about that. But you can't get around that. Like, no matter how good of a wrestler the guy was, and no matter what the reason that the incident happened, you could still say he really succeeded as a wrestler, but he utterly failed as a human being. I'm sure, you know, no one in their right mind would have done what he did. And he, you know, like I said, he's in that monster category, and I think that's a cage he's going to be locked up in forever. I mean, WWE has, if you go to the WWE network, you can't search Chris Benoit's name. He's not on the website. Right. His all, to their credit, every single appearance he's ever had in a pay-per-view or a match or anything is all on there, as far as I know. But if you look at the milestone, it'll say, you know, Eddie Guerrero in tag team action. It'll never say Chris Benoit. It's insurmountable.
No, you bring up good points all around, and I think it's kind of those sort of, there's that layer where I was almost reminded of, and keep me honest here, Josh, you're a movie buff, but about 15 years ago, Roman Polanski was nominated for a Best Director award, then won, right? Actually won.
He did win.
And this is around the whole scandal time with the things that are going on in his own life.
Right.
And it was one of those things where it's like, I think that the Academy, he actually won it, right? He actually did win it.
He did win it.
And I think the Academy, there was some representative from the Academy that just said, listen, we look at the work, not the human. That's what our stance has always been.
Right.
And so in that regard, okay, if you take the sort of Oscars way of looking at things, and looking at Chris Benoit, should he be in the Hall of Fame? And I guess to me, when I come to the Hall of Fame, I think of the greatest of the great.
Sure.
And I think with Chris Benoit, pound for pound, one of the best wrestlers. His center of gravity was just always, I was just so like marveled at. The way, you know, he told stories in the ring. He was always the guy who was scratching and clawing every single victory, but he got there.
Sure.
But that being said, I don't think he was that great of a talker. And I don't think if you have the full package, I don't think if you can cut promos, I don't know that you're actually the best of the greatest of the great. So in that regard, if you're taking sort of the Oscars view at it, I don't think I would necessarily include him in it. But that, I think, really what we're coming down to is, and the core of it is, he'll just never be in the Hall of Fame. So it's almost kind of like at least the WWE Hall of Fame. No, he'll just never be in that WWE Hall of Fame. So it's almost one of those like, should he be or should he not? It's kind of irrelevant because he's never going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Point, right. Yeah.
I wanted to get that out there. Everyone always asks that question, and why not? It's a loaded question. It's an honest question, and I think it's something that definitely got to iron out one way or another. But again, I don't think we'll ever see that in WWE. I don't have that induction.
Certainly not. Now, here's the thing: if you had wanted to press the issue, my retort to your Roman Polanski gambit would have been that the Academy is giving him an award for his work. I feel like the Hall of Fame is the person, you know, like all of your contributions to WWE and just. But I felt like get put in the Hall of Fame. It's almost like your very being, your very existence is being honored because you existing has impacted wrestling in such a positive way. I don't know, like I understand separating the art from the artist. I totally get that. I'm down with that, you know, and there's art that I consume from artists that I think are terrible people, probably. But again, it's like in the Hall of Fame that's like it's taking the whole person, not just his WWE or his wrestling achievements, versus the Academy, where, like they said, they're just honoring the art. They're just looking at the art, and go for it. Give the man an award, because that's simply an award on his shelf. That's
Oh yeah, no. Well, I think at the end of the day, like we said before, he's not going to go in the WWE Hall of Fame. So in terms of like we can pick it, we can choose it, we can break it apart, we can look at it 4,000 different ways. At the end of the day, he's just not going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. So, but anyway, so that being said, in terms of your picks, what are some picks that you think that we should see in the WWE Hall of Fame?
China. I think a lot of people agree that's a number one pick.
We were talking about that before the show. I would agree with you too. She was a trendsetter.
Female Intercontinental Champion.
That's right. Right. And
first female Royal Rumble participant.
Right, exactly. So she was really doing a lot of paving. She was definitely a trendsetter, trailblazer. You think about DX, and even though she was just, no, I don't want to say just a bodyguard, even her silence in DX was so loud. It was so vibrant. She was just a cornerstone to that group, you know. And I think what sold it so well is that she was always so straight-faced, and then Triple H and Shawn Michaels kind of starting off were just really kind of goofballs, and they sort of dancing around her type situation.
But she would stand in there like always just like
and she's
unmoving,
right? And she's that cornerstone, and she was intimidating too.
Yeah,
she held her own against the women and the men. So
absolutely,
yeah, that would be cool. I think it's time, and I'd like to see her China as well too.
So we all know the reason, right? Is because, you know, as Triple H said in an interview, he said if some kid goes online and Googles her name, he's going to find something unsavory. But I gotta tell you, Trips, that's very hypocritical. If someone Googles Katie Vick, if someone Googles Triple H in a mortuary, defiling the dead body, allegedly, defiling it's very hypocritical to criticize her for what she did afterwards. Okay, like,
well, if we're
let it go.
Yeah, and if we're being real about it, I mean, I don't want to sit there and point fingers, but I think her downward spiral was because it was a broken heart with what happened between Triple H, Stephanie, and her. And I think it was a broken heart, and it was sort of one thing led to another. She lost her job, obviously, after that.
Right.
And it was just a downward spiral. So, me personally, it's again, I don't want to point fingers, but if we're being real about it, that's what happened.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, I think that for the most part, we were talking about, you had a really good, maybe interesting analogy. I don't want to put good as a word towards that infamous stuff, but the analogy of like the monsters of WB and all that. It was interesting because I feel like there have been some monsters that have come back. Obviously, like you see, like Bret Hart was let go out of the dungeon after the whole Montreal Screwjob type situation. He was sort of written off, and same with like CM Punk, obviously with everything going on. But they always come back. They always come back to WWE. I think to your point, I think Chris Benoit will probably remain locked away with the other, with the monsters for forever. But yeah, I mean, it's that point. I think that China could, definitely. They inducted Sunny. It was working out well for her, at least for a while, and it seems like it's one of those kind of touch and go situations that we always hope the best for her. But of course, China at this point, I think that her legacy should be remembered. She was important to pro wrestling.
No doubt about it.
Who else you got? Who else you got on your list?
I threw in Scott Steiner. That's another person that not quite to Benoit's level, but I feel he's up there to be very unlikely to be inducted because of his apparent threats to kill Hulk Hogan.
But you think he should be in the Hall of Fame?
I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Big Papa, put him in the Hall of Fame. Maybe he wasn't the best talker or the best at math. Yeah. He was always an interesting talker, no doubt about that. He's up there with Sid Vicious. But yeah, like his achievements, no doubt about it.
Interesting. Well, that's not one I would choose, but interesting. Yeah, he does like to talk a lot of crap about Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, and I think they had a cease and desist.
He's such a
some sort.
Can you imagine the speech? Could you imagine?
It would be a fun. I mean, what they could do, they could induct him and Rick together. I think that might be something they could do. Induct the Steiner brothers together. I think that might make a little more sense, maybe from my perspective, but. Yeah, you're right. I think if the only way he's going to get in the Hall of Fame is, it would be definitely through the Steiner brothers. So anyway, WrestleMania 32, Scott Steiner is supposed to be part of the whole where NWO came out, DX came out during Triple H and Sting's match. Scott Steiner was supposed to be there to represent the WCW NWO side, as it were. But of course, there was some type of altercation between Scott Steiner and Hulk Hogan on the airplane. I think he was talking stuff about his girlfriend or something. I don't really know. I didn't care.
Something, yeah.
But I just thought, what a bonehead move. Like, seriously. You've got a situation where you're probably getting a couple grand out of this easily. It's a free trip. You're getting your WrestleMania moment. It was a great nostalgic moment. It was fun for us as fans, and you blew it for yourself. Like that's such a bonehead move. Like what the heck? So, but to back your point up, I could definitely see him going in as like the Steiner brothers with Rick.
That'd be something. And actually that made me think of possibly to get China in, you induct DX as a backdoor kind of sneak in there with her.
Well, do you think Sean Waltman would be part of that? Because do you think I don't think he's honestly deserving his own induction. I think
not his own, no.
Right.
I think going with DX, sure.
Yeah, but I also want to throw out there, like, as far as I think of that match of the year, I forgot what year it was, Bret Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid. That was one of the best matches I ever saw in my life. Google that, YouTube it if you haven't.
Okay.
Bret Hart, 1-2-3 Kid. I forgot what year it was, honestly. I think it might be like 93, 94, 94 maybe. I forgot. Look it up. It's a great match, and it really shows as far as Sean Waltman, and honestly, it sucks, but it's a huge missed opportunity. He was one of the best workers in the business, especially for his size, and he put himself over, was able to get over the crowds and whatnot. But I don't know. I don't think that he necessarily reached that echelon he needed to be considered Hall of Fame. But I could definitely see him being inducted maybe as like a DX group.
Sure.
But that being said, I had some conventional sort of people I was thinking of. But so we talked about China already. Another person who I think, and this is actually, if we're talking the celebrity wing, and I'm not a huge fan of the celebrity wing, by the way.
Yeah.
I agree with Jim Ross, where celebrities and athletes and entertainers and so on and so forth have always had their place in wrestling, but on the peripheral. They're there, to help round out things and make it more of an extravaganza and add that extra spectacle to the larger shows like WrestleMania. If we were to have a celebrity wing, I think Cyndi Lauper should be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
Of course, with the whole rock and wrestling connection, rock and roll wrestling connection and all that. And she actually, speaking of, she really helped put WrestleMania on the map. She is when she would go on Carson and whatnot, she was talking about her WrestleMania appearance. Of course, she accompanied Wendy Richter to the ring and saw a victory. But you have to remember, Cyndi Lauper was the biggest star in the world at that time. So when she is going to WrestleMania, people are following. They're like, "Whoa, she's going? What's going on?" And so I'm going to check this out. And that's what really made WrestleMania a spectacle. And it made it okay to be like, yeah, WrestleMania is part of the mainstream, all that. So I really feel that Cyndi Lauper, again, if we're going to have a celebrity wing, she should be in the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame.
On that note, I have my own celebrity.
Okay.
Motorhead.
Yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
It's gotta happen. It should have happened last time. Sorry, Kid Rock, but when you got inducted, I really would have preferred it would have been Lemmy and or Motorhead in your place.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, I'm with you. Again, I think Kid Rock. He's done a lot of music for WWE.
It's true,
and so I'll give him that. But I think I'm also biased. I'm not a huge Kid Rock fan.
Yeah, same here.
Not necessarily the music, but also maybe in recent years as a person. So I think that's going to go without saying. I think definitely, of course, the connection to Triple H. There, I think I could definitely see that. So I'm with you. Another person I think that should be in the Hall of Fame, Vicky Guerrero.
Yeah.
I think
that's a good choice.
You've got the Guerrero legacy. I also think that Vicky Guerrero, she's highly underrated. To me, she's one of the greatest heels of all time. She gets more heat than I've ever seen. She comes out and you hear the "excuse me." It's like a reverse Warrior pop. People are just like, "Boo!"
She is a heat magnet.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And so it's one of those things where obviously you got the legacy, and she really picked up. So after of course, Eddie passed away, she literally picked up the contract and like took the whole Guerrero name even further, and it was just like awesome to see that. And I think she kind of just thought it's something she'd do temporarily, but then she turned out to be really good. At first she was just kind of the SmackDown face general manager, and then it just she became there was a whole excuse me, and then being married to Edge, that whole angle, whatnot. It was great. No, and of course then recently with her send off with Stephanie McMahon, there's interesting promos there as well too. So I think Vicky Guerrero should be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
No doubt about it. Yeah, that'd be a great choice.
But who else you got?
Okay, let's see. You know what's funny? A few years back, WWE offered the Honky Tonk Man a Hall of Fame inclusion. But apparently he had contracts with, I think it was Wizard World at the time for appearances, so he had to decline.
Is that right? I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Okay, interesting.
But the thing that gets me is they never asked him back. I guess he pissed off Vince or somebody. Like, Vince, I know you listen to this podcast religiously. Vince, man, if you were going to offer it to him a few years ago, offer it to him again. He still does. He deserved it then. He still deserves it now. And yeah, Honky Tonk Man, like, legendary Intercontinental Champion. I think he's one of the guys that made that belt mean something.
Well, yeah, I mean, he held it for 13 months or something like that.
Right.
He was the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion.
Well, yeah,
of all,
that's right.
time. Yeah.
So,
and of course,
you know?
his roots in Memphis and whatnot, and of course, he's related to Jerry the King Lawler, so there's
there you go.
more history there. But no, I mean, there's no reason he should not be.
Yeah.
And really, a Honky Tonk Man was he's an iconic wrestler if you think about it.
Sure.
WrestleMania, the NES game, had 6 players, and he was one of them. You know,
he was red hot at the time.
Yeah. So no, I'm with you. I think that'd be cool to see Honky Tonk Man.
So yeah, it's sad because right now the way things look, it just looks like Vince's butthurt or something. It's really silly to me. It's like, come on, guys. So Honky Tonk Man, okay. What do you got, Josh, man?
All right. Well, this is again, it's kind of unconventional, but I'll explain myself. I think Barry Horowitz should go into the WWE Hall of Fame. Why? Jobbers, as it were, again, for lack of a better word, and I'm going to use that term loosely. I'm not a professional wrestling worker myself, but you want to call them jobbers, designated losers, what have you. They play a very important part to wrestling. Someone has to get over. And, these wrestlers, that they come in, day out, they simply put people over. That's an important job, believe it or not. It's like in wrestling, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. And when you're, as they say, a jobber or a designated loser, you're putting everyone over. And Barry Horowitz put everyone over. And then he even had his moment. But the thing about it is, I think what he did is he inspired that even as again, I want to use the term jobber loosely because again, I'm not part of the industry. Yeah, I mean, jobbers have always played a huge part in wrestling. Barry Horowitz is probably the greatest of all of them, but he had his moment as well too. But I think he's inspired other people. You look at someone like Zack Ryder, who is essentially a jobber, so to speak, but he's always stayed ready. He's always showed up at the arena. He's always been early. He's always been there early. He's always left late. He's always tried to self-promote himself. He's always been ready. And they gave him that moment at WrestleMania 32 when he won a ladder match in front of 101,000 people for the Intercontinental title. That's a memory, even if they released him today, that's a memory that no one can ever take away from him.
Sure. He got his moment.
Won an Intercontinental title at a WrestleMania in front of 101,000 people, the largest WrestleMania of all time. That's just awesome. So anyway, I think that people like Barry Horowitz, they've always played a huge important role. Now nowadays you don't necessarily have a designated loser or jobber, so to speak, but you have wrestlers that lose a lot, like your Kurt Hawkins and whatnot. I suppose you consider that, but most wrestlers, they kind of seesaw it back and forth, is how they sort of book it nowadays. But I think Barry Horowitz, I think that he has inspired a generation of all, and it's one of those things where just like a referee, you need someone to lose a match. And sometimes you need to lose a lot of matches to put a lot of people over. That's an important role for the legacy of wrestling in general.
That's the thing. I mean, comedy groups, they need their straight man. The basketball teams need their Bill Wenningtons.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be, in the spotlight. But for somebody to be willing to lie on their back looking at the lights every night, and to continue doing it, and not only do it, but to do it well, you gotta give him props.
Yeah.
And I am glad that at some point in history he did get his little moment where he won a few matches. And
yeah, I think he won a total of 4 matches, so I think it's a hard sell because he won a total of 4 matches. I mean, actually it was 5. So he beat Skip 3 times. He had a pinfall victory over Hakushi, and then he had a 5th, which a lot of people forget this one, but he actually had a match with Owen Hart. Owen Hart beat him via submission, but didn't let go, so the referee reversed it, and Barry Horowitz picked up his 5th and last known victory, as far as I can remember. Again, it's the whole deserving thing. I think it's what he put towards the craft, and again, the more people you put over, you're churning out more stars, and it keeps this whole thing of wrestling moving and evolving down the road. Who else is on your list?
Speaking of Owen Hart,
yeah,
I think I'll put Owen Hart on the list. I mean, everybody's talked about this one before. This one's been talked about a lot, but he deserves to be there. And I understand that his wife, I don't want to try and pretend to know exactly what she's thinking, but I imagine it's probably something similar to, that's not going to bring Owen back. I don't blame her, but I guess I'd really like her to one day be able to say, okay, Vince or Trips, put Owen in the Hall of Fame because I found some sort of peace. I feel like that's the only time that she would allow that. You know what I mean? I can only imagine that she's still hurting. I would be too, but so I'm hoping that maybe one day she'll feel comfortable to give the go ahead so that he can get into the Hall of Fame, but also that we'll kind of know that she's at least in a better place. Again, I don't want to make assumptions or anything like that, but I mean, no one's going to argue that Owen Hart doesn't deserve to be there.
No, I think it's an interesting choice, and yeah, it's definitely there's a whole story behind that, legalities, and obviously there's a lot of emotions behind that. Any way you look at it, definitely the impact he made, and it's such a bummer. It's one of those where, on one hand, some people thought, well, what if Owen Hart had not passed away? What would have happened? And some people say, well, the rest of the Hart Foundation dissolved. You think about Jim Neidhart and British Bulldog and Bret Hart, they all went to WCW. But the thing about that is, people think, well, Owen Hart would have just dissolved and then went to WCW. I don't think he would have. I think he actually would have became a future world champion. I think that WWE liked how Owen Hart was probably obedient, for lack of a better word. That he was over with the fans. He was a great heel, and I think it's actually, from a business standpoint, it would actually help them out to have Owen Hart in WWE as a way to tether the Harts back whenever they wanted, right? So I don't think that they would have gotten rid of Owen Hart. Also, just to say one federation has all the Harts, that's a big deal. I mean, we're talking, these aren't just ordinary run-of-the-mill workers. These are, this is the Hart Foundation. They of course have made their own history, as we know. But I've thought about that, and it's one of those where it's such a bummer. I remember as a kid, I was listening to this. So if you remember from before, I listened to all the pay-per-views growing up. A TV in my basement, I found that if you stuck a fork into the back of it, I could get. I went to channel 99. I could hear the pay-per-views. I never could see them, so I remember listening to this and actually, hearing the commentators, Jim Ross saying, we're not going to glamorize this. We're going to get back to this, and then at some point, I think they cut to the back in between matches, and Road Dogg was Jesse James was cutting a promo saying, "Oh, and we're praying for you." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is really happening." And I was like, "What's going on?" And then they announced it and all that. It was. I remember as a kid, I just really felt that, and was like, "Yeah, it's one of those where it's like, oh, it's such a bummer." Anyway, obviously, and I guess I had one other person I want to throw in there, Harvey Whippleman. All right.
Yeah.
I think Harvey Whippleman. He's a one-time women's champion. He's a great manager. He's held title. And I think about his time with Kamala. I always actually, when people think of him, they think of Warlord. They think of Kamala. I always think Bertha Faye. When he was the manager of Bertha Faye, and he had that song that he sang, the whole Bertha Faye, I love you. And I'm not butchering the lyrics, but I always remember that, where it was that whole Bertha Faye, Alundra Blaze, and sort of Harvey Whippleman was kind of bouncing back and forth. Yeah, I think it'd be great to see Harvey Whippleman in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
What else? Who else you got in your Hall of Fame? Anyone else?
How about we do one more for me?
Okay.
Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because just a few years ago you would have never thought this would be possible. But now here's the funny thing. I had mistakenly thought he was in the Hall of Fame. He was not. He was inducting the Rock and Roll Express. So he should go in the Hall of Fame himself now, because apparently he's welcome in WWE headquarters. I mean, I'm sure Jim would probably tell you, there was probably a time when he thought if he was anywhere near Connecticut, there'd be snipers after him or something. But I guess, either Vince doesn't give a shit, or they've mended some of their bridges, or whatever the hell you want to call it. He seems to be welcome with WWE, so give him the Hall of Fame. I mean, his list of accomplishments is a goddamn laundry list. Just do it. Do it, Vince.
That was one of those things, too. I remember as a kid with the whole Camp Cornette thing, where he had Yokozuna and Owen Hart and British Bulldog and Vader as part of his camp. Of course, Clarence Mason was his lawyer. Yeah, no, it would be great to see. And I don't know. Personally, I don't think he's a guy he's honest. Right. He's got some wacky ideas, but he's Jim Cornette. He's been a huge cornerstone to wrestling, and I think that'd be interesting speech, to say the least, at the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Oh yeah, come up there with a tennis racket.
But I think that's all we got. Do you got anything else? I think we're good for this week. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think we're pretty good. I just want to say to anybody who is listening, thanks for checking us out. We're starting out. We're rough. We're raw. Please leave us a comment. You can email us at joshandjoshtalkwrestling@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, guys, and that's a wrap.
Yeah, happy Rumble. See you, dudes and dudettes and everyone. Bye.